Hello, brothers and sisters. Raven here. This is something I'm doing just for fun. Because this video is about something that's not anything of real importance, but there is a bit of significance to it I'll get to at the end. It's a book I was able to get that seems to be much rarer than most, that is said to be by Blair Adams with Joel Stein. Now, Joel Stein was the editor, and I've heard still is, of a lot of the books at Homestead. And I can tell you by how bad the writing is, and how he definitely hasn't cleared it up at all, he's not doing a very good job with it. But he wrote this book. Writer's Handbook. The revising he does, the revision he's talking about in here, I have only read a few pages, and already you can see he has no clue what he's talking about. Not necessarily because everything he's saying or trying to say is wrong, but because the very writing of it doesn't follow the rules itself. It's so messed up. So being a writer, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. Now what I'm going to start with is right after the intro, which is a terrible intro. It's more like a quick lesson on just the basics. But basics that don't really teach anything because it's just common sense. Check the spelling, check the grammar. Well, duh, but how? It's really pointless. The intro does not need to be there. You could have just done the first paragraph of it and left it at that. But still, even that, not the best writing. Now, the first section he gets into, which is a list of many, many points. He calls it summary points. These points are not much of a summary sometimes. Some of these points are very long, drawn out. But what I want to go through are the first ones. There's just a few at the beginning that are pretty short. Listen to these. This is so bad. So bad. Rule number 1. Don't slavishly follow any rule that causes awkward or confused writing. If the writing transmits real voice with clarity and power, you have the substance of what you're looking for. The problem with this is this idea of causes awkward or confused writing. That's what every rule is about getting rid of. A rule is not going to cause that. Now, what you got to understand, though, in writing, partly depending on what kind of writing you're doing, but in writing, in general, rules can be bent and broken if you do it in the right times and places. Here, it seems to me like he's taking this idea and he's going the other way with it. Because you can break it doesn't mean in that situation what the rule does messes things up. No. It just means in this case, the rule may not need to be applied because there's something even better you might be able to do. Not because the rule's bad. But note, in this first sentence, here's what he does that's so messed up. At the start, he says, slavishly follow. One thing that you'll hear from many writers is the kind of word, the form of word that's best to avoid as much as you can is an adverb. The very second word he says is an adverb. And there's such better writing he could have used. And I'll tell you right now, putting it this way can easily cause awkward and confused writing. Better way to put it would be such as this. Don't be enslaved to any rule. That would work better. But no, he's got to make it more complicated sounding to make it sound brighter, to make it sound smarter. This shouldn't be about making yourself look a certain way. This should be about communicating what you want to communicate. Being able to make sure the person you're speaking to will fully understand what you're trying to tell them. Far better they think you have a weak vocabulary and learn a lot from it than think you've got an amazing vocabulary but assume they can't understand what you're trying to teach. It's too deep for them. Next part of it is also messed up. If the writing transmits real voice with clarity and power, you have the substance of what you're looking for. No. No, 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 no. If the writing transmits real voice with clarity and power, he's claiming that means you have substance you're looking for. That doesn't mean the substance is good at all. Again, transmits real voice. What you're talking about is the sound of it, not the meaning of it. This guy has no clue what he's talking about. Next point. You must have a clear understanding and feeling for what you want to say. This isn't false, but boy, is it a weak point. Have a clear understanding for what you want to say. If it's something you want to say, of course you understand it, because it's your own thoughts. Second, feeling for. That is a terrible way to put it. What do you mean by this feeling for it? You mean you really care about it? You're passionate about it? Or do you mean it sounds good to you? You like the sound of it? You like the tone of it? You gotta be more descriptive. Don't use such a vague word like that, because that isn't going to teach anything. Or if it does, it may teach differently than what you're trying to teach. Poor choice of word. Next, speak to your reader. Sir, you need to learn this. Like I said, he's not communicating this very well. And that's what he's got to do. Not try to sound smart, not try to sound intelligent. Just speak to that person, not in front of them, to them. Especially when it's a book like this, where you're teaching. This isn't just a work of art here. This is a lesson. Speak to the reader. Now the fourth one. Read your writing aloud, preferably to someone else. If you don't like its sound, rework it. If something is too turgid, dense, awkward, dead, rewrite it completely. Try a new free writing. A free writing? No. No, this is where you should be narrowing it down. Editing isn't about being free. Editing is about fixing issues. The free writing is what you start with. The editing is where you narrow it down, where you make it work. Now, this idea of if you don't like the sound, rework it. Okay, look, this can be good in certain cases. I personally don't like that rule. Because the problem is when you're talking about writing a book, this isn't necessarily something that's going to be spoken. And it's certainly not going to be spoken by you. If there's a voice in this, you are not the one speaking it. It's the voice in the reader's mind, or if you do an audiobook, it's that professional reader, their voice. Hearing your voice isn't going to tell you what it sounds like. Now, there can be a good thing about reading it aloud to make sure it flows, to make sure it sounds good. You don't know if it's going to sound this way. That's not the reason to do it. Also note, this point isn't about how you edit writing. The way he words this, the way he does this is how you edit your own writing. Yours. Not others. He needs to relearn this. The reason I wanted to point some of that out, the reason I wanted to bring this up, is because this shows you how and why they're able to do what they do. Blair in his speaking, in this writing, Joel in his editing, his own writing, everybody else who's in the leadership of Homestead in their teaching, in their writing, they know how to use the words to sound good. They know how to sound like they know what they're talking about, even when they don't. He does not know what he's talking about. Note one sentence he says here. To produce a writing with life, turn to right words. This isn't a matter of right words and wrong words. Better words, worse words. This isn't a right and wrong. This isn't a black and white. By saying that statement, he is not only, he knows how to write, knows how to edit, knows how to make it work. Not only that, by making it a matter of right, correct, he's making everybody else wrong. Not weaker, not quite as good, just wrong. If you go through and you read different books on writing from different writers, you're going to find there's a lot of different methods, a lot of ways about it, and different things work better for different writers. Something I've had to talk about on a channel I do all about writing. Haven't been able to do much of it lately because of Homestead, but something I used to do a lot of. And when you teach these things, you gotta let people know almost every time. This isn't mandatory. This isn't a way you have to do it. This is one way you can do it. This is something that can help you make it work. That can help you do it better. And the problem is, they do this with Scripture. Not because Scripture should be taken different ways. Not because it's not right and wrong. But because they're making it where they know how to take it properly. It's as Ozzy had said that time. It's the body coming together that's going to make the word mean what it means. They have the right way of doing it. The others are wrong. It's that kind of arrogance. That's what I'm seeing here. That's what I'm seeing in almost everything they do and say. And as a writer, let me tell you, that is dangerous. Because once you think that way, you've got nothing more to learn. And if you think that way, you probably need to learn a lot more than most. When I was going through my master's, let me tell you, I probably learned 3 things. 3 things that it really taught me. 1, don't hesitate to try things. Toy with it. See if it works. Test it. 2, don't try to imitate somebody else. Find your own style. 3, always improve and learn more. there is no end to the improvement, to the learning. That's why it's not a matter of right and wrong. That's why I worry about how I see the people in Homestead constantly going to Blair's books and treating it as though Blair had the answer. I've seen different books from different people, but it's like what Zach said when it came to building Christian character. It was like, that was the book. That was the book that was so desperately needed. There's always more to learn, right? There's always more to learn in scripture. This may be incorrect in writing. This is showing some things that are just not the best way to teach about writing. But within the errors themselves, it shows a bit more of the bigger issues within Homestead and how it teaches. I don't plan to go through this book, so I didn't expect anything, but I had my hopes, and it's about a topic, like I said, I've studied, I'm into. So that'd be kind of neat to see, okay, how do they take this topic? And it's a great representation of why I have so much trouble with their teaching. I was treating like they have the answers, and they convince you of it by making you so confused. They must be far brighter. They give themselves pride by making you humble. I'll see you guys next time. God bless.